From Atlanta, Georgia, welcome to Fearfully and Wonderfully Me, a podcast for women on leadership and life skills with Rhea Story. Rhea shares powerful life and leadership principles, helping you maximize your potential and become the woman God created you to be.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's episode on Act on the Facts. Conversation and communication and connection skills are something that I'm really passionate about because, as women, it really helps our influence in the social and the relationship dimension. And women naturally have a head start. Sorry, guys, but women do naturally have a head start in leadership and influence because women by nature are more relationship oriented. It's just who women are, most of them naturally. They're more nurturing, they're more focused on building the relationship with someone. And that's really an asset and a benefit when it comes to leadership, because leadership and influence is based on relationships. So it's something that I'm passionate about because for so long, I really didn't realize that natural strength could be an asset. And I really didn't know how to develop my own communication and connection skills to help build relationships. I just really wasn't very good at it. So I started intentionally studying and applying and working to get better at that. And now now I'm a full-time speaker and author. So I'm living proof that regardless of how bad or how good, or if we even think we're not naturally gifted as leaders or as someone who can connect with people and influence people, we all have the ability to get better at those skills, at leadership, at natural influence, even if we're not in a position of authority, because leadership is influence. Well, today we're talking about acting on the facts, because a lot of our influence with other people comes from our ability to have really constructive conversations in high stress situations. And it's a topic that I'm just passionate about because I know how powerful applying these tools can be, whether it's personal or professional. Every single one of us are going to have high stress situations in life. And in fact, maybe the personal ones are even more high stress because there's more emotion involved. But professionally, that's certainly things are going to happen at work, at home. We're going to have a need to be able to carry on a conversation and get effective communication even when there's a high stress situation going on. So I want to just touch on that a little bit. I'm digging into this topic really deeply. On Monday, I'm doing a complimentary webcast courtesy of ATD. They host a lot of webcasts and offer some of these webcasts for just the general public and general education and their member base as well, but they're open and free to the public. So if this topic interests you, I'm offering a full hour webinar on it on Monday. And I'll go ahead and I'll post the link when I post the link for this webcast. But you can go to webcast.td.org/webinar and then /2788 if you want to get the direct link to the episode or the webcast or even the recording. So, but Monday I'll be digging into this in a lot, but I wanted to touch on it today because there again, it's one of the most critical skills in our ability to resolve high stress situations. Because when we're in a high stress situation, a lot of times we find ourselves emotionally ill prepared to have the conversation that we actually need to have. Conversations where there are a lot of emotions and a lot at stake will always be more critical and often much more difficult to resolve effectively. So it's even more important to make sure that you're communicating clearly and completely and effectively. If all three of the following elements are present, there are three elements that need to be present for what I call a difficult dialogue, high stress situation. Number one, there are different perspectives or opinions about the subject. Number two, there's high risk to personal or professional interests. And number three, strong feelings and emotions. And I already mentioned earlier that a lot of times our personal life have even more stronger emotions. So those have a lot more potential to become critical conversations in high stress situations. Stephen Covey pointed out that 90% of all communication problems are caused by differences in either semantics or perceptions. Now, the difference is semantics are the way that you define the words, and perceptions are how you interpret the data. So, when it comes to those difficult dialogue situations, what I really love to focus on is it's really smart to pause before the conversation and consider number one, what could happen. Number two, what you want to happen in the best case scenario, what you're really working for. And number three, what you should do to help achieve that outcome that you really want. And it's learning to talk through the conflict and resolving the issues and allowing both sides to win. It's not about win, lose, or I win and you don't win. It's finding a win-win for both of us, especially in those high stakes situations. Now, it's not always comfortable. In fact, a lot of times it's difficult to do because there are issues that are sensitive, emotional, and painful. And what's most important here is it requires us to act based on the facts rather than the emotions of the moment. As Lawrence Peter said, speak when you're angry and you'll make the best speech that you'll ever regret. What often derails us in those high stakes, critical conversations is that we speak or act based on the story that we tell ourselves or the emotion that we're feeling in the moment, rather than what actually is happening. Rather than speaking or acting based on the facts, a lot of times we act or speak or react based on the emotions in the moment. And I've said this before, there's nothing wrong with having those emotions. We're human. We're going to have those emotions. But what's most important is that we learn not to act on them, but to pause and take a step back and ask ourselves those three questions. What could happen? What do I really want to happen? And what do I need to do to get that outcome that's a win-win for both of us? And learning to just hit that pause button in the middle of those critical conversations and say, yes, I might be feeling angry or upset or frustrated, but I don't have to respond on those emotions. Let me take a step back and look at the facts of the situation rather than what I'm telling myself about those facts. Now, this could be all kind of things. Mac and I were in a restaurant the other day having lunch, and the waitress just completely accidentally she was bringing our drinks to the table, and she accidentally knocked one of the drinks off of the tray that she was carrying the glasses on, and she poured a full glass of ice water accidentally. Most of it went on Mac, but I was sitting right beside him, and so he got most of it. But I got pretty soaked on one side as well. And she didn't mean to, but right there in the emotion of the moment, it's so easy to say, whoa, high emotions. When you suddenly get doused in ice cold water, absolutely. And how we respond, there could be high stress, certainly for her, because that poor waitress was so apologetic. She didn't mean to. It was just a mistake. But it's easy in that moment to respond based on the emotions of the moment and say, oh my goodness, now I'm going to sit here with wet pants the entire afternoon or certainly through lunch till we can go home and change. But it's learning to step back and say, I don't have to act on those emotions. I don't have to respond on those emotions, because if I get angry and chew her out, then she's feeling bad for just what was simply a mistake. And honestly, we all make mistakes. And so the most powerful thing in those difficult dialogue situations is to step back and act on the facts. The facts were that the poor waitress did not mean to pour the glass of ice water down us. It was just an accident. The emotions were that, gosh, you've just had a full glass of ice water poured on you suddenly, and you could be feeling cold or shocked or upset or frustrated, but you don't have to act on those emotions. You can act on the facts of the situation. Now, that's just a little example, and certainly there that wasn't a high stakes situation, but it is an example recently where we have the opportunity to act on the facts rather than our feelings. You know what often derails us, sometimes even before the actual conversation, is our assumptions. Something happens, which is a fact, but we base our emotions, our thoughts, behaviors on the stories that we tell ourselves. And we kind of connect the dots, so to speak, around the facts. But the picture we see isn't always accurate when we connect the dots. So we're filling in the blanks by telling ourselves a story. And when that happens, you're not acting on your emotions as much as they are acting on you. So my tip for you today, next time you feel yourself in that high stakes situation, or even when you know that you're going into a high stakes, difficult dialogue, high stress situation, stop and pause and ask yourself those three things. What could happen? What do I want to happen? And what do I need to do to help achieve that outcome that I really, truly am seeking? Not just the emotions that create feelings in me, but acting on the facts of the conversation. And that will help you have that conversation so much more constructively. Now, it doesn't mean you'll get it right the first time or the next 10 times, but every time we get it right, it gets a little bit easier to do. It's developing that mind muscle in the heat of the moment and just saying, you know what, stop and take a step back and act on the facts. Until next time, my friends.
Start increasing your influence and maximizing your potential with Ria's audiobooks. Available at audible.com, amazon.com, and iBooks. Please visit riastory.com to learn about Ria's books, resources, speaking, and training programs. Thanks for listening.